Gaganyagana go to Goloruharam, Goran, Tamago Pirako Briksham. Alagada Ratidam, Yati Singha Gora, Govinda Desh. Gaganyagana go to Goloruharam, Tatam. Kama Adama Kichuna Bachila Janchia Dile Kakola Kahe Premananda Emona Goranga Vidoya Dariya Bola Shagoranga Kaha Goranga Laha Gorangira Namore Che Janam Goranga Baje Se Hoya Mara Prana Re Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Yashai Buddha Bhakti Labhya Prema Vidana Tismai Jagan Mangala Mangalaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namaste Madhavirapi Gopala Sri Kriyat Kripaya Jari Tadaiva Sambhaya Piva Risha Yusta Kriya Janahan Shri Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Sasanatana Rupakam Gopala Raghunatha Brajabha Vanchakopa Tarubhyascha Shri Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Chan Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Nice to see everybody. I'm sorry for coming a little on late today. As I mentioned, it's been a little hectic. I was hoping today to speak something about both Svarupa Damodar Goswami and Raghunath Das Goswami and their position in the Gambhira. But I think that might be a little too ambitious for me. We might not get that far. We may only speak something about Svarupa Damodar Goswami. I hope nobody feels offended by that. So I'd like to share with you a purport from Srila Prabhupada, verse and purport from Chaitanya Charitamrita's Adi Leela, chapter 4, text 105. Svarupa Gosai Prabhu Ati Antaranga Tahati Janina Prabhu E Shabha Prasanga. It says that Svarupa Damodar Goswami's Prabhu Ati Antaranga. He's Ati Antaranga. He's very much, the Prabhupada translates the most intimate associate of the Lord. So he understands the subject matters about Radha Bhav, which are coming in Adi Leela chapter 4. He knows these subject matters very well. What we want to do today, looking back a little bit, we spoke in our last session about Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami and how it is. I'm sorry, Krishna, I hope you can make it in here. The room's kind of blocked, so it's hard to explain. We addressed a few questions last session. What was the necessity of describing the Ancha Leela and the Madhya Leela? Where did Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami get the information from, and why is it so special? So the necessity we heard in Kaviraj Goswami's own words, because I'm an old man, I don't know if I'm going to live that long. Where did he get this information from? And we heard from a number of different verses that, let's just look at one of them. This is Madhya Lila chapter 2. We should be reading some more today about the position of Svarupa Damodar Goswami. He says, Chaitanya Lila Ratnasar, that the pastimes of Mahaprabhu, the topmost jewels, Svarupa Damodar, and they're being carefully protected in the Bandar, in the storehouse of Svarupa Damodar Goswami, Tenho Tuila Raghunatha Kante. And he explained those things to Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, literally saying that Tenho Tuila, that he kept those things in the throat of Raghunath Das Goswami. In other words, Svarupa Damodar spoke through Raghunath Das Goswami. Such an important topic. Tahan kichu na jeshilan, taha ihan visharilan, bhakta gani dilan a bete. So Raghunath Das Goswami, then he repeated those things to me, and I am describing them and presenting them to all the devotees. So these are the topmost jewels, and these jewels, they're locked up in the storehouse, Svarupa Damodar. So what is the meaning of Svarupa Damodar? Why is Kaviraj Goswami using that language? What is a special position of Svarupa Damodar Goswami in Mahaprabhu's pastimes in the Gambhira? That's our subject today. And perhaps something about Raghunath Das Goswami. As I mentioned, I think maybe that's a little too ambitious. So looking back at the verse we just read from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada's purport, Adilita chapter 4, which describes that Svarupa Damodar Goswami, Tahate Janina Prabhu, a Shabha Prashanda. He knows all of these topics very, very well. So Prabhupada gives a purport, something speaking about the position of Svarupa Damodar Goswami prior to the Lord's acceptance of the renounced order. Purushottam Bhattacharya, resident of Navadvip, desired to enter the renounced order of life. Therefore, he left home and went to Benares, where he accepted the position of a brahmachari from a Mayavadi sannyasi. When he became a brahmachari, he was given the name Sri Damodar Swarup. He left Benares shortly thereafter without taking sannyas, and he came to Nilachal, Jagannath Puri, where Lord Chaitanya was staying. He met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu there and dedicated his life for the service of the Lord. He became Lord Chaitanya's secretary and constant companion. He used to enhance the pleasure potency of the Lord by singing appropriate songs, which are very much appreciated. Svarupa Damodar could understand the secret mission of Lord Chaitanya, and it was by his grace only that all the devotees of Lord Chaitanya could know the real purpose of the Lord. So, as my Gurus would sometimes speak, there's a Bahiranga Karan and an Antaranga Karan. Karan means a cause. So there's an external cause and an internal cause. The external cause in Gaura Lila is Svarupa Damodar Goswami. He's the Acharya. And by him speaking these pastimes of Mahaprabhu, by his grace only, all the devotees of Lord Chaitanya could know the real purpose of the Lord. But Svarupa Damodar Goswami also has an Antaranga Karan and also an Antaranga position, internal position in Gaura Lila, as Prabhupada is describing here. He was Mahaprabhu's secretary and constant companion. Prabhupada says he used to enhance the pleasure potency of the Lord, which are very much, by singing appropriate songs, which were very much appreciated. Svarupa Damodar could understand the secret mission of Lord Chaitanya. So here in this purport, we're hearing how Srila Prabhupada is explaining there's an antaranga karana, antaranga purpose, hetu of Svarupa Damodar Goswami, and a bahiranga karana, internal and an external purpose. And we want to speak a little bit about that today because we're trying again to understand something about Mahaprabhu's Bhajan and the Gambhira, which is the most astonishing subject matter. In Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, we were hearing in our last session, we were asking this question: what is the necessity of these subject matters? Why not just speak about the pastimes of the Lord? What is it? Because Kaviraj Goswami, he's fixated with the ecstasies of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Gambhira. What's so special about that? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was always ecstatic. He's ecstatic in South India. He's ecstatic. Nahi deki aichi shashi nahi suni hina bhava vyakta kori nyasi chudamani. This is from Anchalila chapter 14. Let's put this on the board. It's an important verse. We're looking back a little bit from our last session, but it's an important thing to look back on. He says this Anchalila ecstasies of Mahaprabhu is so important because we've never heard of them anywhere. Krishna Das, who is such a great devotee, such a great learned scholar, that the most learned Vaishnavas of his time gave him the title of Kaviraj Goswami. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. He says, Loki nahi deki aichi shashi nahi suni. We've never heard anything in any shastra, not in Mahabharata, not in Ramayana, not in the Puranas, not in Veda Vedanta. We've never heard anything. No one has ever seen the kind of ecstasies that Mahaprabhu exhibited. So this is, looking back again at our last session, this is the answer to our third question. What was so important about the Gambhira Leela? It's these amazing ecstasies. And as we'll discuss today, Svarupa Damodar Goswami has a very internal connection with those ecstasies, and also with the establishment externally of the mood, of the line, the parampara of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. According to the Gaudiya Vaishnava Abhidan, which is a Bengali encyclopedia, which was assisted by R. Fakir Mohan Prabhu when he was a young man. It was compiled by Haridas Das Babaji on the order of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. He took it up after Srila Bhaktisiddhanta started it. He gives a biographical description of Svarupa Damodar. We'll just describe a few little points from it. His father's name was Padmagarbha Acharya, and his maternal grandfather was Jairam Chakravarti. And he was born, Svarupa Damodar was born as Purushottam Acharya, Purushottam Das. He was born in Bitadia, not so far away from Navadvip. His maternal grandfather, Jairam Chakravarti, was a resident of Navadvip, and it was he who arranged his daughter's marriage to Padmagarbha Acharya, and this couple, they settled in Navadvip. So that Padmagarbha Acharya was the father of Svarupa Damodar Goswami. Shortly after Svarupa Damodar was born, Padmagarbha left his family in the care of his father-in-law, Jairam Chakravarti, and he decided, I got to take up spiritual life. And so he started traveling to Mithila and Kashi and studying Veda Vedanta and things. And it was in Benares that Padmagarbha Acharya happened to meet a very exalted devotee. His name was Lakshmipati, who was a guru of Madhavendra Puri. And Padmagarbha took Diksha from him. So meanwhile, his son, whose name was Purushottam, or Purushottam Acharya sometimes, who later became known as Svarupa Damodar, he was brought up in Navadvip in his maternal uncle's house. And he was very, very attached to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was an associate of Mahaprabhu in Navadvip. And when Mahaprabhu took sannyas Purushottamacharya became mad. He went to Benares. He decided, I'll also take sannyas. And he accepted a guru there, which according to the Gaudiya Vaishnava Abhidan, his name was Chaitanya Nanda Bharati. And Chaitanya Nanda Bharati ordered him that he should study Vedanta Sutra. So now I'd like to share with you an interesting description about the inner heart of Purushottamacharya and how he became known as Svarupa Damodar Goswami. This is from the Chaitanya Charitamrita Mahakabya, not so well-known book of Kavi Karnapur. And this is from chapter 13. Let's go ahead and I'll share the verses with you. Let's read something. Acharya Yukta Purushottamakyo Mahamati Kashchana Charu Shila. Excuse me. Yudvatadiyam Charitam Prayatna Yayotam Evikshitam Upsukatma. The Purushottamacharya, when he was a very, very beautiful devotee, he's very, very intelligent. Mahamati, his intelligence was very, very great. Kashchana Charu Shila, his form, Shila, was very charu, very, very attractive, very charming. When he heard about the pastimes of Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri, he decided, I have to go there. Purushottamam etyavi vala pradadarshata kripanide padam satu darshana matra kotakad abhavit kidrisha eva samata. And when he arrived in Jagannath Puri, he saw Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and by just seeing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he became completely changed. Tanu apya haiva vishmita. Vishmita means to forget, and tanu means the body. He forgot all about his body. Rasa matram sukha matram ikshitam. The only thing that you could see in him at that point was rasa matra and sukha matra, just rasa and extreme ecstasy, happiness. Api jivita nata darshanaj, because he was seeing that person who was jivita nata, the lord of his life, the nata, the controller of his jiva, jarata tena sadaiva samshrita. He was becoming stunned in ecstasy at all times. Now, it's significant, we don't hear so much about the ecstasy of Svarupa Damodar Goswami. He's such a great devotee. Why don't we hear more about his ecstasies? Because Svarupa Damodar Goswami is living to assist Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. As Srila Prabhupada was saying in that purport, his function is to help assist Mahaprabhu's mood. So he'd forgotten all about his own self, and he's only thinking of the Lord at all times. But atanayane jala nirjala kule vapur ujja kulakaika bhushitam. His eyes, just torrents of tears were coming out. Pituvepata bhanga banguram. His body had all kinds of goosebumps on it. Gudum uru vitayam tadadade. And in his legs, his body was shaking and becoming crooked. Daitekshana bhava bhavita, daitavabhavad esha bhavita, ayam apyati komalo, bhava priyata bi priyataika sagara. When he would see the Lord, he'd become very, very emotional. And it significantly says here that he developed the same kind of bhav, esha bhavita, like the Lord had. I am apyati komalo bhavat priyati bi priyataika sagara. And the Lord was priyataika sagar. He was an ocean of affection for his devotees. And the Lord became very, very, the word here is ati komala. Komala means soft. We use the word komala sometimes with Kanishta Adhikars. They have komala shada, soft shada, very soft, very tender, translated here. The Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became very tender because of his affectionate nature. Bahuda Madaram Shriyam Prabhu Prali Lo Chasu Babhuva Komalaha Nitaram Akurora Mutracha Patitam Prema Mahara Samburi. And so again, they use the word Komala, that Mahaprabhu was very, very tender. Right? But he's explaining Bahuda Madaram, great, great sweetness. Shriyam Prabhu. Right? Shriyam and Madaram. Shriyam means something which is very auspicious, something which is Shriya is also a synonym for Lakshmi Devi, it's a synonym for Radharani. So it's Bahuda Madaram Shriyam. And this ocean of rasa was constantly, of Mahaprabhu, Prema Rasa Samburi, was constantly being given to him by Purushottam Acharya. So Abhijasita Dasa Dasaya Satu Sanya Samadabra Bhagavan. That Purushottam Acharya was a Dabra Bhagavan. He was very, very fortunate. He's someone who's Abhijasita Dasa Dasaya. He was the abode of truth. So he took sannyas. And Agamatu Rasa Swarup, he's not just, because he's the Swarup or the very form of Rasa, he became known as Svarupa Damodar. Ititena Nirantaram Prabhu Prapada Pata Jo Samipa Sangataha Nimisham Sahate Sma No Drisho Paripashan Eva Trishnaya Piban. So Trishnaya means piba means to drink. Trishnaya means that he has his thirst. He's constantly staying near Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and drinking the association of Mahaprabhu like it's a drink, like it's some kind of great nectar. So what is the identity of Svarupa Damodara Goswami? Let's look a little bit about that. This is a controversial subject. Srila Prabhupada writes about this in the same purport we were just reading, Adi Lila, chapter 4, text 105. He says that Svarupa Damodara has been identified as Lalita. This is the first thing Prabhupada says. The second expansion of Radharani. However, text 160 of Kavi Karnapur's authoritative Ganesh Deepika describes Svarupa Damodara as the same Vishaka Devi who serves the Lord in Goloka Vrindavan. Therefore, it is to be understood that Sri Svarupa Damodara is a direct expansion of Radharani who helps the Lord experience the attitude of Radharani. It's such a very, very deep purport. This is a position of Svarupa Damodara. He's a direct expansion of Radha who's helping the Lord experience the attitude of Radha. Now, this subject about Svarupa Damodara being, is it Vishaka, is it Lalita? My Guru Maharaj used to speak about Svarupa Damodara as Lalita. I have some attachment, perhaps because of his comments based on that. But he's not the only person. Srila Prabhupada, in his purport to Madhya Lila chapter 8, text 123, he says that Svarupa Damodar, that Srila Ramananda Roy was an incarnation of the Gopi Vishaka. So how is Svarupa Damodar Goswami Vishaka if Ramananda Roy is Vishaka? Let's look a little closer at this because this is very important. As we mentioned in some of our previous sessions, if we want to understand the Gambhira, we need to understand something about the place, which is Jagannath Puri, something about the Ishtadev there, Lord Jagannath. We haven't come to those things yet. Something about whose house it is, it's Kashi Mishra. Who was Kashi Mishra? Previously, we spoke something about that, how Kashi Mishra was Kubja. And prior to that, Kashi Mishra's manifestation, after being coming as Kashi Mishra, how he again appeared in the pastimes of the Lord. We have to understand these different personalities because all these devotees come to nourish a particular mood of the Lord. So when we want to understand the Lord, we also have to try to understand his associates and what special role they have. So Svarupa Damodara is described by Kavi Karnapur in Ganesh Deepika as follows. He says, Kalam, Ashikshayad Radham Ya Vishaka Bhajay Pura. That Svarupa Damodara Saja Srupada Goswami Tad Bhava Vilasavan. That it was Vishaka. in Braj Leela, who became Svarupa Damodar Goswami. However, it's a little bit of a controversial subject, and I find it very interesting and significant that Srila Prabhupada, in his purport, which is a translation from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's words, he begins by saying Svarupa Damodar has been identified as Lalita. And then he says, some people say, Kavi Karnapur's authoritative book says that he's Vishaka. Now, there's another book which was recently discovered by a scholar, someone we've gotten a little bit. It's called the Gaura Gana Swarup Tattva Chandrika, written by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And I don't have this in diacritics, but I've got the sloka in me. Shri Yuta Lalita Yasid Braji Radha Swarupini Srimat Svarupa Goswami Prabhuvadyad Prabhu Priyaha. There, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that Svarupa Damodar Goswami is Lalita, who's become Svarupa Damodar. So that's very interesting. Let's go a little bit further. There's another authoritative book which was mentioned by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and that's written by Srila Jan Chandra Goswami in Jagannath Puri. It's called the Gaura Govinda Archana Smarana Padati. And in texts 192 to 197, he speaks about the position of Lalita Sakhi. And who is Lalita Sakhi in Krishna Leela? Let's see here. We'll just go ahead and just read the English because it's a long verse and my Sanskrit pronunciation. Next, the particular characteristics of the Astasakhis are given, beginning with Lalita Sakhi. On the northern petal of the Nanga Sudakada Kunj, which is a place of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, there is a beautiful kunj covered with various kinds of flowers and trees. This place is known as Lalita Nandada Kunj. Lalita Anandada means, Dada means to give, Ananda means happiness. Lalita Nandada Kunj, this is the kunj which gives great happiness. So Lalita, the color of that kunj is a color of lightning. And Lalita Sakhi stays there. She has a very beautiful, brilliant Gorochana complexion. She wears a dress. What's her friend's name? Prabhupada's disciple, the artist, Mataji. Dhriti Mataji made an amazing painting, which I should have gotten ready for you. Someone reminds me, maybe I can post it in a group or something, of Lalita consoling Radharani. And in the painting, she very accurately bases the dress of Lalita on what's been told here, and also in the Radha Krishna Venadesh Deepika by Rupa Goswami, that she wears a dress the color of peacock feathers. What does that mean? Peacock feathers. She took it to be peacock feathers on it, not just the peacock feather doesn't have just one color. She's adorned with celestial ornaments and personifies the type of Bhav, is Kandita. She and Sri Krishna are very, very dear to each other, and her sevas bring camphor and tambul to him. Her age is 14 years, 8 months, and 27 days. In the opinion of the Pandits, her father's name is Vishokaka, her mother's name is Jarada, and her husband's name is Bhairava Gopa. Her home is in Javat, and her nature is Bhama Prakara. Bhama means left wing. She's gets a little bit angry. And then he goes on to say, Svarupa Damodara tam prapta gora rasetuyam iyam tu Bhama Prakara griham ashis tu the other day. That in Gaura Leela, Lalita Sakhi has become Svarupa Damodar Goswami. So this is another place saying the same thing. Now, I spoke with our Fakir Mahaprabhu once. I asked him this question: how do we understand? Gaura Ganadash Deepika says that Svarupa Damodar Goswami is Vishaka. And without any hesitation. And he told me based on some research he did, he didn't explain the research, so I can't really comment. But I'm just passing on this little thing. He said that it's been interpolated. And I have read some different accounts from different scholars pointing out some very strong evidences that there's been some interpolation in the Gaura-Ganadesha Epika of Kavi Karnapur in terms of the language, and sometimes things which are repeated and things which are said about himself personally. So Kavi Karnapur in the Chaitanya Chandrodaya Natakam, he also speaks about the special connection between Rup and Svarupa. Svarupa Damodar Goswami and Rupa Goswami. They have a very special connection. This is in the 9th chapter of Chaitanya Chandrodaya Natakam, text 143. Priya Swarupe Dayita Swarupe. Very sweet. Priya Swarupe Dayita Swarupe. Priya and Dayita are two synonyms for each other. That Rupa Goswami, he's Priya Swarup, he's very dear to Svarupa Damodar Goswami, and his dear friend is Svarupa Damodar Goswami. Prema Swarupa Sahaja Virupe. And Rupa Goswami is Prema Swarup. He's the embodiment of Mahaprabhu's ecstatic love. Nilanu Rupi Prabhu Eka Rupi. So he's naturally very, very beautiful. And he's an appropriate person to speak the Swavilasa Rupa. He's the embodiment of that, to be able to speak those things. So he has Rupa Goswami and Svarupa Damodar Goswami, aside from their names being similar, they have an intimate connection. This again is brought out in the book we were just looking at a minute ago, the Jnana Chandra Goswami's Gaur Govinda Smarna Archana Padati. And he speaks there, I won't read the Sanskrit here, but I'll show it to you. He says, Tan Madhye, in the middle here, or we should understand and see this thing. Tan Madhye Shri Gaura Chandra, Pami Shiva Gadadharam. In the middle is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And this is the recommendation of Jnana Goswami for meditation. We'll speak a little something about the position of Jnana Goswami as compared to Raghunath Das Goswami in a minute. That he's saying that we meditate on Mahaprabhu, and then on his left is Gadadhar Pandit, then on his right is the Avaduta Nityananda Prabhu. And just to the right of Nityananda Prabhu, we meditate on Advaita Charja. And then to the Srivas Pandita Dakshina Srinivasan. He's also there near to Gadadhar Pandit. And then we meditate on Mahaprabhu's devotees who surround the Lords on all sides. And he says they're divided, this Srimad Gaura Bhakta Vrinde Sriya Sriya Gananabhite, they're divided into two primary groups, different groups headed by different gurus, beginning with the group of Rupa Swarup, the group of Rupa Goswami and Svarupa Damodar Goswami. So both Kavi Karnapur and Jnana Chandra Goswami are stressing the special intimate connection between Svarupa Damodar Goswami and Srila Rupa Goswami. Let's look a little something here. This is from Jaiva Dharma, with Gopal Guru Goswami. He's Bhaktivinoda Thakur at the end of Jaiva Dharma. He's speaking something about Puri Leela, and he's speaking about Gopal Guru Goswami, who was the guru of Srila Jnana Chandra Goswami, who wrote this book. And he comments there, he says that Mahaprabhu entrusted Svarupa Damodar Goswami with the work of writing about Rasa Tattva and its method of practice. And so Bhaktivinoda says, I don't know anywhere else this is said, but it's a very interesting comment, that on the order of the Lord, the order of Mahaprabhu, Svarupa Damodar Goswami divided that book into two parts. In one part, he explained the sophisticated esoteric method, and the other, the gradual course. In the esoteric method, he gave to Raghunath Das Goswami, who illustrated in his writings. And the gradual course he gave to Vikeshwar Goswami, who in turn gave that to him. And he gave it to Jan Chandra Goswami, who's kept a note of it. So that Gorgavinda Smarna Archana Padati is a bona fide book. But if you look at that book, the Padati or the process is very different than what we generally follow as followers of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. And some Vaishnavas, if you go to Radhakund or you go to visit certain Babajis in Jagannath Puri or Navadvip, some people will say, oh, you didn't get the real deal. You didn't get the real thing. I once spoke with one very learned Pandit named Chaitanya Charandas Babaji, perhaps the most learned Pandit and sadhu in Jagannath Puri. It was on the advice of Maharaj Purushottam Dev, the current king of Puri. I asked him, who can I go to ask some questions about certain things of history? And Maharaj suggested a couple of sadhu pandits there. One of them was Chaitanya Charandas. And he was explaining to me that most of the Babajis, they followed the system which was given by Svarupa Damodar Goswami to the Vikeshwar Pandit. And that system is an external kind of system where you're imagining something, you're meditating on something. But Raghunath Das Goswami's program is based on the holy name. It's based on Krishna Bhajan. So that's our system that we follow. And both of these things came from Svarupa Damodar Goswami. Yeah, Lila Purushottam, I'll find this later on. Remind me if I forget, okay? So many things to say. I wanted to say a little something both externally and internally about Svarupa Damodar Goswami. We'll start with the external. In Madhya-lila chapter 2, we hear about the cleansing of the Gundicha temple. And there's a beautiful story there about how one Gaudiya Vaishnava washed the lotus feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and drank the water. And Kaviraj Goswami says that actually Mahaprabhu was pleased with him, but he became externally angry to establish the proper etiquette. And in text 125 of that chapter, there's an important discussion between Mahaprabhu and Svarupa Damodar Goswami, which Srila Prabhupada notes and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, many acharyas have noted this. Tiksha lage Sarupe daki kahili tanhare e deka tomara gaudiya vyavahari. He called for Svarupa Damodar Goswami and he told him, E deka tomar gaudiya. Just see the vyavahar, the behavior of Tomar Gaudiya. You're Bengali Vaishnava. You're Gaudiya Vaishnava. We are Gaudiya Vaishnavas in our line. So here Mahaprabhu is saying, he's addressing Svarupa Damodar Goswami as the leader of Gaudiya Vaishnavas. And then Mahaprabhu complains, he's washed my feet in the temple of the Lord, and he's drunk the water. And then again, in text 127, he addresses him as Tomara Gaudiya. E aparadi mora kahan habe gati tomara Gaudiya kore etike haijati. He said, Mahaprabhu says, I don't know what my destination is because of this offense. Indeed, your Bengali Vaishnava is greatly implicated. And Prabhupada, look at Prabhupada's purport here. He says, it is significant that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Svarupa Damodar Goswami that the Bengali Vaishnava was, quote, your Gaudiya Vaishnava. This means that all Gaudiya Vaishnavas who are followers of the Chaitanya cult are subordinate to Svarupa Damodar Goswami. The Parampara system is very strictly observed by Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's personal secretary was Svarupa Damodar Goswami. The next group of devotees was the 6 Goswamis, then Kaviraj Goswami. So this is the external position of Svarupa Damodar Goswami. He's a very, very intimate devotee of the Lord, and Mahaprabhu addressed him. He said, Tomara Gaudiya. You're Gaudiya Vaishnava. In other words, they belong to you. And so then Svarupa Damodara Goswami, he grabbed that devotee by the neck and gave him a little push, made him stay outside. And then after some time, he went back in the temple, and then he requested Mahaprabhu, you please forgive him. So from this, we can understand something of the position of Svarupa Damodara Goswami. Now, let's look at Anchalila chapter 5 and understand something about some of the internal purpose of the position of Svarupa Damodara Goswami. This position, I would say, is more madhya than so much antaranga. Let's look at the verses here. This is Anchalila chapter 5, text 95. Gita shloka granta kavitva jay koryani pratame shunaye se swaruperastani. That anybody who wrote some verse or something about Mahaprabhu, they first had to bring it to Svarupa Damodara Goswami for it to be approved. He had that position. The position now, it's not exactly just the Acharya, but he understands the heart of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And if that verse, that song, was approved by Svarupa Damodara Goswami, then Mahaprabhu could hear it. Otherwise, they wouldn't allow it. Because sometimes rasa basa hoya jari, there may be some rasa basa or some siddhanta viroda, there may be some wrong principles spoken, there may be some rasa basa there, and Mahaprabhu would become unhappy about that. He would become very angry. Now, Svarupa Damodara Goswami, his position is very important. See, Mahaprabhu is not coming as a deity himself. He's coming as an acharya. But even as an acharya, he didn't write very many verses. Even some people, there's some Vaishnavas who say that there's some question that he wrote the Shikshastika prayers. I don't want to go there. We accept it because Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says that, or acharyas say that. But in any case, he wrote 8 verses. That's not that much. He didn't do so much in a sense to establish our sampradaya, but that was done, especially firstly by Svarupa Damodara Goswami, and then by Raghunath Das Goswami, who became the acharya after Rupa and Raghunath, Rupa and Sanatan left this world. And that's a discussion we'll go on to later on, and the position of Raghunath Das Goswami within the Gambhira Leela, and how he served it, and why it is that Kaviraj Goswami was stressing so much about these two personalities, Svarupa Damodar and Raghunath Das Goswami. So Mahaprabhu, he was here to relish. That's his purpose. He didn't come to make a religion. He came, automatically some things were manifested, but he used his devotees. Through the mouth of Rupa Goswami, he spoke about Rasa Tattva. Through the mouth of Roy Ramananda, he spoke about Sajya Sadhana Tattva. Through the mouth of Haridas Thakur, he spoke about Nam Tattva. He established Siddhanta through Jiva Goswami and Gopal Bhatta Goswami. He established our Sampradaya through these different devotees. So let's go on in the same chapter here. So Mahaprabhu, Ataiva Prabhu Kicha Agi Nahishuni, Mahaprabhu wouldn't hear anything unless Svarupa Damodara Goswami heard it first. So this is not, again, the point is not just that about Siddhanta Viroda or Rasabas, that not just Siddhanta Viroda. It's not just that, he may have said something wrong and Mahaprabhu is going to get angry, but it's going to affect the mood of Mahaprabhu. And Svarupa Damodara Goswami, his role is not simply something external to guide people and be the acharya and, if you get a letter of recommendation from your temple president, and maybe he'll give you initiation, whatever kind of role. But his position is a very intimate one with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So one day, this Bhagavan Acharya came to him and said, there's this nice Brahman, he wrote this really beautiful drama about Mahaprabhu, and you should hear it. And Svarupa Damodara Goswami said, look, Bhagavan Acharya, you're a very liberal kind of person. You listen to anything. He says, but we'll go ahead and put this here in Sudama Goswami's reply to him. He said, Krishna Lila Gora Lila Sikori Varnana Gorapada Padmatana Hoya Prana Dana. That who can write about the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or the pastimes of Krishna? It's only someone who's accepted Gaurapada Padma, Jana Hoya Pranadana, who's accepted the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as their life and soul. But if you hear some Gramya Kavi, Gramya Kavi means poetry, Gramya means some mundane thing. You hear some Gramya Kavi, a mundane poet, Kavita Sunite Hoya Duk, writing about some, Prabhupada translates, relationships between men and women. Hoya Duk, it just brings unhappiness. But Vidagda Atmiya Vakya, Sunite Hoya Suk, if we hear the words of a devotee who's fully absorbed in ecstatic love, it causes great happiness. Now, at this point, I know what some of you may be thinking, at least I know what I'm thinking, when my service is writing, that, I guess I should pack up my computer and just throw it in the garbage or something and forget it, because I have no qualification in this. As we spoke, I think in our last session, there's two sides to many different things, and sometimes we may say that if someone just sees a devotee, there's in Hari Bhakti Vilas, we translated some purport of Sanatana Goswami was saying, if you just see someone imitating a devotee, if you see someone imitating a mood of a devotee, they can get all perfection just by seeing them imitating the mood, what the speaker is saying in devotee. But then on the other hand, Srila Prabhupada writes in one place that a devotee, a Vaishnava, means someone who has Krishna prema. So how do you adjust those two things? They're like two sides of the ocean. Ocean has two sides. It's not just one side. There's a side that we approach first, and there's a side that we want to go to at the end. So similarly, in this discussion, the real qualification is someone who the pranadana, their life and soul, is given to the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now, one meaning of that can be that they've accepted the lotus feet of Guru Gauranga. And under the guidance of Guru, they write. And Srila Prabhupada, if we take this as a standard for writing, then I think many devotees aren't going to write anymore. Ishwari Prema is probably crying right now since she's a poet. So, but Srila Prabhupada wanted all the devotees to write. It's very important that we write our realizations. And Prabhupada, even at one point, it was not done, and they can't really do it. To answer why not, I'd have to get into ISKCON politics, and we don't want to speak about that. But Prabhupada actually instructed that the BBT should print the writings and books of his disciples. But it's not easy to do, because if the BBT starts printing the books of Sachinandan Maharaj, or my Guru Maharaj, or Bhakti Vigyan Maharaj, people, what are they going to say? Some people are going to become very, very upset and say some very harsh, cruel things. But the point is, Srila Prabhupada wanted everyone to write. But this is a real qualification. The secondary qualification is that we just repeat, not necessarily in my favorite word, a lexicographical way, in a dictionary kind of way, but we repeat the tone, the mood that we've gotten from Gaudiya. So it's so important that Gaurapada Padmajan and Hoya Pranadana, that we take shelter of the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu through his devotees, like Svarupa Damodar Goswami. So let's go on with this discussion. Prabhupada, he gives an interesting purport to that verse. Let's look at that. Oh, I have some really sweet things we're going to share in just a second. He says, Gramya Kavi refers to a poet or writer such as the authors of novels or other fiction who write only about the relationships between man and woman. Vidagda Atmiya Vakya, however, refers to words written by a devotee who fully understands pure devotional service. Such devotees who follow the Parampara system are sometimes described as, and he takes a phrase from Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, are sometimes described as Sujati Ashaya Snigdha, or pleasing to the same class of people. Only the poetry and other writings of such devotees are accepted with great happiness by devotees. In other words, only devotees who follow the Parampara system, only they can write something which will be pleasing to those persons who are Sujatiya. Sujatiya means literally from the same caste, the same family. And it'll be pleasing, snigdha, to those personalities. Those persons will appreciate it. So Svarupa Damodar Goswami is Lalita Saki. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna, when Krishna wanted to taste the mood of Radha, he had a great difficulty. He didn't know what to do. He needed to have someone who could teach him. Because the mood of Srimati Radharani is like a great ocean. And as my Guru Maharaj comments, Krishna is Priti Vishroy. He's the supreme object of love. And the Priti Vishroy cannot understand the mood or the feelings of the Priti Ashroy. Priti Ashroy means the abode of love. It's the two are opposites. And it's like if the sunshine wants to understand darkness, or snow wants to understand fire. Fire wants to understand what it means to cold means. The two can't do that. So when Krishna wanted to understand the mood of Radha, he had to become a devotee. He became a Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now, sometimes I tell a story from an appendix called Naraharira Vishesha Parichoy, which is written by Ananda Narayan Maitra Bhagavat Bhushan, who was a direct disciple of Srila Narahari Chakravarti, who in turn is the author of Bhakti Ratnakar. You may have heard of Bhakti Ratnakar, famous, wonderful book about some of the associates of Mahaprabhu and the devotees, Srinivas, Narottam, Ramachandra devotees who came a little later. Narahari Chakravarti wrote that book, but that we didn't know anything about him. And so his disciple, Ananda Narayan Maitra, wrote something about him. And it's a wonderful story about how Narahari Chakravarti is feeling separation and lamenting how he never got to meet Vishwanath. And he's hearing from Lakshman Das, one great devotee, about the pastimes of Mahaprabhu and his associates. And Narahari goes into ecstasy and he rolls all the way from the temple of Radha Govinda in Vrindavan to the temple of Gopishwar Mahadev. And then everything disappears and he sees Vishwanath, and then he sees Nityananda Prabhu and all the different associates of the Lord. And he's passed down from one associate of the Lord to the next till finally back to his guru. And then his guru gives him the Nityananda Prabhu. And at that time, Ananda Narayan Maitra is telling the story what happened with Narahari Chakravarti, that Lord Nityananda then told him in ecstasy, he said, Narahari, now I'm going to chastise you. And he took his head and stuck his head on the feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then Mahaprabhu started laughing and he said, Narahari, what do you see now? And now begins a beautiful vision which has very much to do with our discussion today. I want to discuss that vision that he had. He saw Vamsivat, the place of the Ras Leela with Radha and Krishna sitting on a throne, and the gopis and cows there, and some of the Priyanama Sakhas like Madhu Mangal and Subal and others. And he saw an amazing thing. Srimati Radharani sitting on the throne, and Krishna on his knees praying to her and begging her that please, Shri Radha Bhave Krishna Parama Vivala Radha Prema Svari Bakaya Narga. He says, Krishna said, Radha, I want your bhav. I want to be able to taste your mood. And I'm going to do Prema Sankirtan, this Vilasi Bhakta Sangi, Prema Sankirtani, Radha Radha Boli Alota Shri Angani. I'm going to do this Prema Sankirtan. And Radha Radha Boli Alota Shri Angani. I'm roll on the ground, chanting Radha's name, chanting your name. And when Radharani heard that, she became very disturbed. She took Krishna's hand and she put it in her lap firmly. And she told him, "Oh, hey, Prananath, tell me, Bhajan, you're my Prananath, you're Bhajan Nandan. Hey, Dukini Bhavi, what do you want to know about the Bhav of this Dukini, this crazy lady, this lady who's always miserable? You're the Lord of all. What can you find in my emotions?" And then Radharani begins to speak about her emotions. And she says that you should know that if I don't see you just for a moment, then I feel like a thunderbolt hit me on the head and I just become stunned with all my girlfriends and I'm just staring down the pathway in a blank way. And if I can't see you, and then she stops. And then Radharani says, only Lalita knows what happens then. And then in the vision, the Narahari was happening, better than television, amazing vision. Lalita spoke up and she said, "Hey, listen, Kala Chanda, Krishna, black one." Radharani's eyes, they're just like fish back and forth. And you become mystified and entrapped by their movements. And Lalita's saying, what can I say about Radharani's bhav? A person who says that you can describe the mood of Radha is just a fool. They're trying to discuss it. They try to describe an ocean with the water in the footprint of a small calf's print. And then Lalita told Krishna in this vision of Narahari, all that I can say is that when you're gone and Radharani can't see you, I'm the one who has to take care of her. And somehow or other pass the time. And during those difficult periods, her condition becomes such that I'm like her only friend. I'm the only person who keeps her alive. I was listening to a class this morning at my Guru Maharaj, and he quoted a famous verse, which is our shloka for our magazine, Tavakatam Nitam Tapta Jivanam Kavi Biriditam Kalmasapam. And he spoke about that verse in a beautiful way, saying how Krishna Kata, Tavakatam Nitam Tapta Jivanam, it gives life to the conditioned souls. He said, but the verse has two meanings. One meaning is that Krishna Kata gives life to the conditioned souls here, but another meaning is it gives life to the residents of Vrindavan, and especially to Srimati Radharani, who's dying in separation from Krishna. So here in this vision, Lalita is telling Krishna that when Radharani can't see you, she's ready to die, and I'm the only one who keeps her alive because Tavakatam Nitam Tapta Jivanam. She speaks Krishna Kata. And when Krishna heard that, he said, "Hey, Lalita." And Krishna began then, he turned away from Radha. He was praying to Radharani. He turned to Lalita and he started praying to Lalita. And he said, "Hey, Lalita, I'm begging you. Please, please give me Radha Bhav so I can be freed from my debt." Because Krishna says, I'm in debt to the gopis. I can't repay their love. So here in this situation, Krishna's praying to Radharani, "Please give me your bhav." Radharani is saying, "What do you want with my bhav for? And anyway, you don't know, I become Pagalini, Radha, I become mad when I can't see you. The only person who understands me at that time is Lalita." And so then Krishna turns to Lalita and prays to Lalita, "Hey, Lalita, you please give me this Radha Bhav." And then Lalita says, "Look, only you two know each other. How can I possibly understand the agony and the ecstasy of your inner love?" And then Krishna, he says, "Hey, Lalita, listen, all of you, you're the maid servants of my pran, my life, Radha. And then Lalita, she talks to Radharani. She says, "Hey Radhe, I think that your beloved has gone mad with Rasa. He doesn't understand anything that I'm saying." And so then the vision goes on. The main point I wanted to make was this discussion with Lalita. At that time, Narahari sees Radharani, grabs Krishna's other hand and says, "Okay, Krishna, you want my bhav, but how will you tolerate that my bhav? You're going to start rolling on the ground when you do kirtan. Your body is so soft. Your body's like butter. So I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll cover your body with my body. And so when you start rolling on the ground, you'll be able to tolerate it." And so therefore, Radha Baba Dyuti Sivalitam Nomi Krishna Svarupa. Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami says that Krishna has assumed the mood and the complexion of Radha. Radharani's complexion, her body is covering Krishna and protecting. And then Narahari, watching all this better than television, suddenly he saw Radha and Krishna become one as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this story, for me, really illustrates the position of Svarupa Damodar Goswami and Lalita. Lalita is that personality who keeps Radharani alive in separation from Krishna. So when Krishna wants to understand the feelings of separation that Radharani is having, that same Lalita comes to help. And how does she do that? I'd like to turn you to a very beautiful book. Who's present here today? Let's see. I think we can go ahead and do this. If Lula Purushottam approves. Is it okay if I read something a little different, Lula Purushottam? Yes, no? Yes, no? Lula Purushottam, he's not giving permission. If you get permission, then we'll read something. But otherwise, if you don't get permission, we can't read it. It's a little too complicated.
Certainly giving. Certainly.
So this is from a book by Rasik Mohan Vidyabhushan, who is an associate of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, with this beautiful book that we've been kind of using as an outline, Gambhira Sri Gauranga, about Mahaprabhu and the Gambhira. But he wrote another book. He wrote several amazing books, one about Svarupa Damodar Goswami, one about Roy Ramananda, and one about the Gambhira. He wrote and the book about Svarupa Damodar, we have it. You can see my hand is like this fat. It's a huge fat book in Bengali. And he wrote a book called Nilachale Bhajan Madhuri. And it's a really nice book. So let me just tell you a little story from Nilachale Bhajan Madhuri. Nilachale Bhajan Madhuri, the title means how in Jagannath Puri, the sweetness of Braj, how it manifested in Jagannath Puri. So after seeing a Rath Yatra festival, some of the Bengali devotees returned home. Every year they would come for Rath Yatra, desiring to have the association of Mahaprabhu. Some of them, they would stay on until the month of Bhadra, August, September. But in the month of Ashvin, Mahaprabhu would order them to go home. And so after they all left, Mahaprabhu became more and more internal. Day after day, this is what we're hearing in the Antya-lila in chapter 14 to chapter 20, the agitation of love and separation from Krishna increased more and more in Mahaprabhu's hearts. During the day, somehow he spent them with the devotees, but at night, he would become very, very unsteady. He would lose himself, and like a little girl, like a young girl, a teenage girl is in love with a boy, she would just cry and cry, Ah, Krishna, Ah, Krishna. And one day, Mahaprabhu was wandering around one evening, and he came to the beach, and he sat down there on the sand, accompanied by Ramananda Roy and Sikhi Mahiti. Sikhi Mahiti is one of the four most intimate associates of Mahaprabhu. Ramananda Roy, Svarupa Damodar Goswami, Sikhi Mahiti, and Madhavi Devi. And Govinda Das and Svarupa Damodar Goswami also came there. And the beach was very, very beautiful. And Mahaprabhu was looking out on the ocean. And who can understand the feelings that he had seeing the beach sand and the blue sky? And Mahaprabhu lost external consciousness. And seeing the feelings of the Lord, Mahaprabhu, Ramananda Roy, and Sikhi Mahiti became a little upset. And Svarupa Damodar Goswami and Govinda, Mahaprabhu's servant, were speaking, but they couldn't. Ramananda Roy and Sikhi Mahiti couldn't even understand it. And so Svarupa Damodar and Govinda, they thought anyway, Mahaprabhu's mood will subside later on. So they were sitting there quietly. And then Ramananda Roy was looking around and he saw Svarupa Damodar Goswami. And Svarupa indicated to Ramananda Roy, don't say anything. And everybody's looking at Mahaprabhu. And Mahaprabhu's face was soaked with tears coming down his cheeks. His lips were like the reddish bimba fruits. His lips were trembling like he wanted to say something. And only one very sweet word was not quite audible. Only one sweet word was coming from the lips of Mahaprabhu. Tomara, Tomara. Means, Tomara means yours. In other words, he's saying, I'm yours, Tomara. And the devotees began to sing that. And Mahaprabhu, then he began to sing the song, Tomara Prema Bhandi Hoilam Sunu Sham Roy. Please listen to me, Sham Roy. I'm bound up by your love. And we spoke before in a previous session, I think it was in one of our sessions on Prem Bhakti Chandrika, one of the meanings of the word Sham is that to bind the person up. And so that song Mahaprabhu was singing, Tomara Preme Bandi Hoilam Shuna Shamaron. That sound was carrying out over the ocean. And then Ramananda Roy and Svarupa Damodar Goswami were very, very intimate associates of the Lord. They were looking very attentively to the Lord. And Ramananda Roy noticed that Mahaprabhu's fingers were twitching. It was as if the song couldn't fully come out from his throat because his emotions were so intense. And so the song was coming out through his fingers. And then again it came. Tomara preme bandi hoilam shuno shamaroy Toma bine morachite Kichui nabaya, shayane shapane ami, tomara rupa deki. He says, tomara, tomara. It's all he could say at first, tomara, tomara. And then tomara became the song. Tomara bhandi, prema bhandi, that I'm bound up by your love. Hoilam shuna shama roy. Oh, listen, Sham Roy Krishna. Toma Vina more chitta kichana, but my heart doesn't care for anything but you. Sayane swapane ami tomara rupa deki. All that I see in my sleep, in my dreams is you. And then that song began to come in the hearts of Mahaprabhu's associates. And Mahaprabhu's eyes were closed and his voice became silent. And tears started coming down his face, so much so his body was shaking. Ramananda Roy ran over to hold him. And then Svarupa Damodar Goswami, who is the second form of the Lord, he began to sing a song. This is a song from the poet Chandidas. And Kaviraj Goswami describes how Svarupa Damodar Goswami and Roy Ramananda would sing the songs of Vidyapati, Chandidas, Bilvamangala Thakur, Jayadev Goswami, and the Gambhira. So he began singing this song. Sayane swapane ami, tomara rupa deki. He took the first line, or the last line, I should say, of what Mahaprabhu sang, and he continued it. Because Svarupa Damodar Goswami is just like the second form of the Lord. He knows the mood of Mahaprabhu. So when Mahaprabhu began by just singing and crying, sitting there and crying and saying, Tomara, Tomara, Tomara. And that Tomara became the song. Tomara premi bandi hoilim suna shama boy. And he began singing that. And then it turned into this song of Chandidas, which is a song that Svarupa Damodara Goswami knew. And he took up that line, Shayane Swapane Ami, Tomarupa Deki, Parame Tomararupa, Taranite Dleki. He says, in my sleep and my dreams, I see your form and I become bewildered. And Parame Tomararupa, Taranite Leki. Leki means to draw, to write. I begin to draw your form in the sand. And then there's a problem. Guru Jana Maje Jadi Takiye Boshiya Parashange Namasuni Taravayehiya. He says that if I sit amongst my Guru Janas, my superiors, and I sitting amongst them, I accidentally hear your name. Parashangi Namasuni Dadavayehi. Then at that time, my heart melts. And Pula Kapuraye Anga Anklai Brada Jala Tahani Baritayami Hoye Vikala. Then at that time, I'm sitting amongst my Guru Janas. But when I hear Krishna's name, then my body becomes stunned and goosebumps come in my body. My eyes become filled with tears. I become very, very agitated. Nishidina tomare, pandu pasarite nari, chandidasa, koehia, rakostira kuri. I become very, very agitated. Tears are coming. My body's erupting with goosebumps. And I try to stop it, but I can't. Nishi dina tomar pandu pasri denai. Day and night, I can't forget you. And Chandidas says, Kohihiya rakostira kore. Keep your heart calm. This is the contribution of Svarupa Damodar Goswami. He's like a second form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because he's Lalita. And Lalita knows the heart of Radha. When Krishna wants to taste the mood of Radha, he has to go through Lalita. And as soon as that song was finished in Ramananda Roy, he said, Svarupa, find some way to bring the Lord back to external consciousness. It's breaking my heart when I see he's in this mood like this. And then something else happens. And Svarupa Damodar Goswami sings in another way, which brings Mahaprabhu to external consciousness. I want to speak in another session in the future about the three aspects of Mahaprabhu's ecstasy in Jagannath Puri, the internal, external, and the marginal. And we'll say something more about that at that time. So this is a little something just to give you a little taste about the position of Svarupa Damodar Goswami. In our next session, we want to speak something about Raghunath Das Goswami. And again, to look back a little bit, the reason we're doing this is because it's so important. Kaviraj Goswami says we have to know this Ancha-lila. And maybe I'm going to leave my body before I can describe it, so I have to do it now. And why is he so excited about this? Because nobody's ever seen ecstasy like this. Nobody's ever seen a shasha, not loki nahi deki achi shashi nahi shuni. Nobody's ever seen or heard anything like this before. So I have to share this. So then he goes on to explain how I heard this directly from Svarupa Damodar and from Raghunath Das Goswami. He heard it directly from Raghunath Das, and he heard it through Raghunath Das from Svarupa Damodar Goswami. So our session today is, the purpose of it is to explain something about the significance of Svarupa Damodar Goswami's position, why he's so important in Gaura Lila, because he's Lalita. Because Lalita understands the inner mood of Srimati Radharani. And it's that inner mood of Radha in separation that only Lalita knows. No one else is present at that time. It's Lalita who keeps Radharani alive when she's in that dying condition. So that Lalita comes as Svarupa Damodar Goswami, and to help Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to understand the mood of Radha, Svarupa Damodar Goswami sings these wonderful songs by Chandidas and Vidyapati and others. And if you or I look at these songs, we wouldn't understand them at all. This song, let me just read you the translation. I'll show you the translation of this song board here. And you can see it would mean nothing. Bengali means less to you, I understand. But let's just look at the English. In sleep and in dreams, I see your form, and out of bewilderment, I draw your form on the sand. If I sit among my superiors and accidentally hear your name, my heart melts. My body is studded with goosebumps, and my eyes are filled with tears. I'm very agitated when I try to stop them. Oh, friend, I cannot forget you either in the day or at night. Chandidas says, keep your heart calm. So, how is that Krishna conscious? Doesn't say anything about Krishna, doesn't say anything about Vrindavan, any of the associates of the Lord. We wouldn't understand it. But Svarupa Damodar Goswami's Lalita understood that Chandidas was empowered in Vidyapati to speak the right songs about the mood of Srimati Radharani. And that's why we may ask a question, why don't we sing those songs? Those songs are especially meant for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to understand the mood of Radha. And Svarupa Damodar Goswami singing them for Mahaprabhu, for Krishna to understand the mood of Srimati Radharani. So, I'm going to go ahead and stop there. It's late. I'm sorry we kept you all going. I really wanted to say this thing about Svarupa Damodar Goswami and Lalita. I know it's a little high. It's beyond my adhikar, but we've heard some of these things from my Guru Maharaj and Guru Janis I wanted to share. Does anybody have any reflections you want to share, any questions? Ishwari Prema, what do you think? Is that some good poetry from Chandidas?
Hare Krishna. It's very, very wonderful, very amazing, and at all I very wanted so much thank you for this amazing Katha in Bhajan in Gambhira, because when the first time I knew that this topic, you speak about this topic, I was so much excited, because I think this is most important, most higher knowledge in our Katha, what we have. And so I'm so excited to hear that now we're coming to the culmination of this pastime. And for me, it's like all this Katha, for me, it's also like Gambhira, how you mentioned that we all have to have our special space for our deep relationship and deep Katha. So this is my Gambhira. Thank you so much.
Beautiful to me. I mean, you can appreciate this. I appreciate you as a poet. I always say it. Poets are so important. And poetry, if you want to understand a culture, you have to learn the language, but it's not enough to learn the language. You have to live with the people, but it's not enough to live with the people. To know their heart, you have to listen to the poets. You have to read the literature. And to really understand Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we have to read the poetry. And my Guru Maharaj stressed we should hear the original language. Even maybe we can't pronounce it so well, we don't know the words mean, but there's some bhav in those words. It's so very, very important. I see a lot of poems, sometimes people translate something, some Russian poems or something into English. It's very one-dimensional. You can give some of the meaning, but you can't give all the feelings and the subtleties in the poem. So it's very good to read the original language. Anyway, I was just thinking of you something. Your boy is getting so big now. He looks very, very sweet.
Yeah. And also, I want to share very short darshan.
Jagannath?
Oh,
Jai.
yeah, yes, because I don't know about light, but if you can see,
Yeah, you can see. Jai Jagannath. Hare Krishna.
we after Kirtan, so very happy and very wish you to go to India.
Thank you. I'm hoping. Let's see. Thank you. Anybody else with any reflections, anything you want to share? Lila Purushottam Prabhu.
It was really overflowing today with nectar. I want to ask one thing. Do you, as a head of the Gora, Gauriya Oriya research, know any history of the Svarupa Damodara's Kadachas? Like when way did get lost, or already when Svarupa Damodar was narrating all the stories to Krishnadas Kaviraj, were they already lost that time, or how, what do we know about them?
Description of the history of that, but you'd be interested to know we have a Bengali book in our library called Svarupa Damodar Kadacha. And it's accepted by many people as the Kadacha, the diary of Svarupa Damodar Goswami. Now, most scholars don't accept it. Most Vaishnavas don't accept it. My mood toward Gaudiya literature is becoming more and more broad-minded as I go along every day. When I saw recently the translation of Govinda Kadacha, which I sent to you, I think.
Yeah, you did.
I did that. And it's a really nice book. And I realized that although I have 2 or 3 books just written about why Govinda Das's Kadacha is bogus. One of them is a very big, huge book, much bigger than the Kadacha itself. It's not appreciated by a lot of scholars and different persons, but it is a literature within our tradition. You may say it's a black sheep within our tradition. Just like someone may say, well, who is that Lila Purushottam in Czech Republic? He's a bogus. No, he may be a black sheep within Czech Republic, but he belongs to Czech Republic. He's the black sheep. You have some position that Govinda Kadacha and Svarupa Damodar Kadacha, they have some position. And some Vaishnava wrote them. There's certainly a lot of facts within them. There's certainly a lot of bhav within them. And we can maybe learn something from it. But we need to take it with a grain of salt and see it in the context. So to answer your question directly, I don't know of any history of that. That would be a fascinating subject. I really don't think, though, I have not even seen anything about that anywhere. Literary history, people writing about literature, Gaudiya Vaishnava didn't go on so much. I mean, we have Kaviraj Goswami mentioning Vrindavan Das Thakur's writing. We have a little bit of places like that, but mostly there's not so much of that. And sometimes they speak about the writings of the 6 Goswamis, but I don't know of anybody discussing about Svarupa Damodar's Kadacha other than what I just said.
Seems to me quite interesting that nobody was so careful and concerned about writings of Svarupa Damodar. If we consider what all we have heard today, how important position Svarupa Damodar held already in the presence of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, with that story of any poetry recited to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had to go through Svarupa Damodar. He definitely had the position, like really recognized position of Acharya, I would say. Probably he wasn't really appointed for writing as Rupa, Sanatan, specifically those two in those times. But I'm just curious, how could it be that in Puri there was no one who was like super careful to protect and save these writings?
I'll tell you a little secret. Recently, we've been requested by the descendants of Ramananda Roy They revealed us they have a lot. They have a collection of palm leaf manuscripts of Ramananda Roy's writing and things from that time. They requested us to digitalize those. So that's a project we have coming up. At the same time, there's another person, his name is Krishna Gopal Maharaj. He's a Mahant of the Gambhira. And he also approached us and he said the same thing. They have some manuscripts in the Gambhira and they're requesting if we would digitalize them. So this is one of two of the reasons I want to go back to Jagannath. I don't know what we're going to find. So many things. One thing about Gaudiya literature is that there was no printing press at that time, and they were just palm leaf manuscripts. And sometimes someone, out of humility, maybe they even destroyed it, or they just felt like, well, what is the quality of my writing, or it got lost in some ways because there's no printing press. The really famous books of our Goswamis and Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami were preserved. Why Svarupa Damodara Goswami, who's our Acharya in our line, why his writing wasn't? It was preserved to the form of Raghunath Das Goswami, which we'll hear later on, and then through Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. So I don't know. It's a good question. It's a really fascinating. Actually, it's a good research topic in Puri. I could ask with some of the Mahants, especially in Gambhira. Also, Srinivas Maharaj, he's a Mahant of the Siddha Bakul, and they have a connection with the Gambhira. The Gambhira library used to be with them. There's another place we want to visit. Anyway, there's a lot of books and a lot of things we want to look into. Please bless us.
Service for you there.
You like this this book we were reading from? This is that modified?
And this whole like what is so fascinating is like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu reciting his bhava, and then Svarupa Damodar just following on the same line with actually text of Chandidas, which is quite amazing. Actually, it's that was also part of my question, like, because they both Vidyapati and Chandidas, they were writing not long before, but before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually. So your connection of their writing for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's purpose was quite straightforward. So I would like to hear you maybe a little more about like did really Krishna send Chandida, or are we interested in their identities, or in that sense, like, because it played quite significant role in our discussion for Svarupa Damodar to understand that he's Lalita and what role he played. So in that sense, one would ask the same thing: who was Vidyapati? Who was Chandidas?
We can get into that more in the future. We have the books of both Vidyapati and Chandidas and Puri. We can try to do something about them. They're very difficult to enter. And maybe that's why Svarupa Damodara Goswami was required. He understood those things and he put them in a way for Mahaprabhu that Mahaprabhu could relish. Very amazing thing. It's such an important thing. I mean, we're just fallen, rotten, conditioned souls, but I hope you don't call the standards police or something from the GBC or something and turn me in for reading from this today. But we don't have call it, but we should know something about this. It's not it's right there in Prabhupada's books. Well, what is this subject matter? Okay. Anybody else?
Just a little reminder, if you would look into that Jaiva Dharma to just send more. But if it's easy, if it would take. Because I remember that purport by Urmila Mataji at the beginning of Shiksha, and I really appreciated this whole elaboration of her on that topic. But I never connected it. I went through Jaiva Dharma, but I didn't really recognize it there in the text. So I'd like to see the place. Where is it?
I'll look again. It's toward the end. Gorni Taipagu, do you have something you wanted to share? I have to apologize to everybody too, by the way, in our WhatsApp group. I haven't been answering any questions, and don't expect me to right away. I'm going crazy right now. It's really, really hard. Hare Krishna, Goni Thakur. We can't hear you. We can see your smiling face, but we don't get to hear you.
Okay.
Now we get to hear you. There we go.
My duty put questions, so it's my dharma what to do. And whatever answer is that no answer also answer. But yes, and sometimes it will come. Yeah, I have 2 points. One is that I came here back to Krishna Valley, beautiful Vaishnava community.
Oh, that's where you are. I was thinking, wow, it doesn't look like Maya. Wow. Okay, so it's not so late for you now. It's almost 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah, and I'm the same tired as regular. Anyway, that's okay, because a lot of things happens here. And I started to come and then find like-minded devotees here. And I found one in here, one another, and then I was amazed that it's not so easy. I know almost everyone, but still the mood, the way how they're living is quite different. And when I found 2 devotees of, quite interesting for esoteric Krishna consciousness, still hard to meet with them together, to bring them together. Because that would be, they are living alone practically in their deep mood of searching for deep Krishna consciousness. And each of them are feeling alone and feeling, and they need, but they don't find each other. And anyway, so I was feeling that maybe it's my mission to bring them together and then make them happy just by their own association. That was my point, that we have to follow this kind of mood which you advise, that find each other and have deeper understanding.
Did you hear your Guru Maharaj's lecture on Radhastami?
Yes.
Yeah, we were all really excited, and he was super ecstatic, super rasik, dressing Radharani with the names of the Sakis above her head, and all these amazing kirtans and decorations and prasad and everything. And then Maharaj gives this lecture, and it's all like Siddhanta and philosophy and no pastimes whatsoever. And it really struck me in a very deep way, because he wanted to make a balance, because he knows that a lot of the devotees are not qualified for that. And you've had exchanges about this thing over the years, I think. He's very cautious about that. I would strongly suggest that you be very quiet about anything like that. And I think Maharaj would appreciate it. We should always come together, and we should read the Lakusa Manjali and what Maharaj is saying about that. But to discuss that in public is not good, or even to tell people you're discussing about it privately. You really keep it close to your heart. It's a beautiful thing. That's my humble suggestion for you.
Yeah, I have a short discussion with my Guru Maharaj before I left. It was very sweet. And he was in a very sweet mood and very personal. And then he asked me, okay, Gornitai, do you feel well here? And I said, yes, Maharaj, I'm happy being here and serving you here. And then he told that, yes, we are so fortunate. And he took it very personally. So I'm so fortunate that I told to my wife, don't come with me. They are engaged in different important services, but somehow they are losing their sharp eye for deepening their Krishna consciousness. He told that they are kind of losing their time. And he told to me that you engage very nicely your Krishna consciousness life. No, you deepen your Krishna consciousness. And it was so sweet that Yeah. So we need, yeah. And my other point is that you mentioned is that many devotee in Vrindavan, they are following this Babaji type of Krishna consciousness way. And when devotees from ISKCON or devotees from this line, they meet with them, they are confused because all process is different. And we try to speak with them from about the same topic, and it's caused confusion because they are on the other type of advancement. They are in different way to approach the same goal. So that's why I think we have to teach that to devotees, that we have our own path of esoteric path. It is different. Don't try to mix the two.
We follow the internal path, that's the external path. But the difficulty in discussing it is that some of the devotees who are following our internal path are very, very external. And some of the devotees who are following the external path, they're a lot more internal than we are. So it's hard to just discuss it and understand it in a simple black and white way. It's not such a subject. But we should have strong faith in our process. And Gorkishada's Babaji, he said, our Siddha Pranali mantras Chanada Pisunichena. We, in other words, he spoke this, Bhaktivinoda Thakur spoke this. If we simply chant the holy name, then we'll realize our Svarupa. Whereas in the external process, they formally meditate on it. And that's why Srila Bhaktisiddhanta and our Srila Prabhupada didn't appreciate generally devotees trying to do some kind of meditation program, external thing. Rather, they said, you just focus on the holy name and everything will come automatically. And Shiva Rama spoke about this recently too, and he was commenting how that at a certain point you may like to, but it's not necessary. And the problem comes that it may just be an imagination. Is just an imagination of Brahma? Brahma or Brahma means just some imagination of us when we're a conditioned soul. So it may calm us down, it may be entertaining, it may be useful, but really the process is just to hear the holy name. Harinama, Harinama, Harinama Eva Kevalam. Nowhere in our Goswami literatures does it say Siddha Pranali, Siddha Pranali, Siddha Pranali Eva Kevalam. In fact, it doesn't mention Siddha Pranali anywhere. But Dhyanachandra Goswami in his Gauragovinda Swarnarchana Padidi gives that external path, both of which came from Svarupa Damodar Goswami. He gave Raghunath Das Goswami one, and he gave the Keshava Pandit another. Okay? So anybody else with any, going to say something else? Go ahead. We can't hear you again.
Sorry. So recently I've got a book of Satyananda Maharaj about the chanting. And it seems to me that there are some methods which he suggests to offer, which is using our imagination. So what's your opinion about the suggestion?
I would suggest you ask Satyananda Maharaj more about that. But Maharaj himself has commented that I've heard that he said sometimes that I do this because there's certain people who are attracted by that kind of meditation, but the holy name will just give everything. Because in our day and age today, people really, really want that. Krishna Puni has some comment?
Yes,
Can you hear?
I read recently from Satyananda Maharaj something which is really in the line of this question. And Maharaj explains that when he speaks about this, he is thinking that devotees should be meditating in terms of tattva. It's not a rasa kind of meditation.
In terms of tattva, they should be meditating, not in terms of rasa.
In other words, yes, you think about Krishna, this, but it's not that they should believe that they have a relationship with Krishna in one of the five rasas or at this moment. He specifies that.
Thank you, Glenn Typho. Anything else, anybody? So we'll go ahead and stop. So I'm not sure what's going to happen next Sunday. Somebody else wanted, I see a hand flying in the air. Anybody else? I'm not sure what's going to happen next week. We're going to be in Ukraine and this festival, and it's going to be all crazy and things. Jai Krishna Prabhu, do you want to share something real quick before we finish?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, my pranams. I was just listening to the part when you were talking about Narahari, Prabhu, his meditation, or his revelation. And there was something that His Holiness Gaur Govinda Maharaj says, that about Lord Chaitanya having to, beg, borrow, or steal the love of Srimati Radharani. And I was really appreciating that you elaborated on the begging part. And I mean, if you have anything about the borrowing and stealing part, that would be nice to hear.
Yeah, there's whole stories about that. It's a whole discussion about how Krishna tries to beg and he tries to steal. He tries to get a job even. He comes as Ramika. He dresses himself up as a gopi. We tell that story sometimes, but it's a little complicated. By the way, I just want everybody to be nice to Jai Krishna Prabhu. He's a very gentle, sweet devotee. We met him in Lithuania this last time. He's Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj's personal servant sometimes, and very sweet devotee. So Lila Purushottam will be nice to him, okay? Notice. All right. Okay, anybody else? That's all I want to touch on right now, Jai Krishna. There is stories about that. There are examples of it. And Rupa Goswami says, Rasastomam Britva, in his Dvitiya Chaitanashtakam, he says that Mahaprabhu, that Krishna entered into the heart of Radha to steal her bhav, because he tried everything else. We told the story today about how he's trying to beg it from her. She wouldn't give it. Then later he tried to get a job. That's his Ramika, and there's a few other stories like that, where he disguises himself up as a gopi and comes very careful not to touch Radharani, because if he touches her, immediately she'll know that it's him. And she is rendering so much service to Radharani, but finally, in the end, Radharani figures out who he is, and he loses his job. He gets fired, so he's not able to collect the salary, Deha More, that he's praying for in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Okay. All right, so we'll go ahead and finish unless anybody else has something they really want to share. We'll have a Lila Purushottam. I'm going to try to get this quote from Jagodharma right away, but if I forget, because something's going on in my brain, it starts coming out through my ears sometimes. Remind me, okay? Srila Prabhupada ki, Samaveda Bhakta Binda ki, Go Premanandi Hari Hari Bo, Vanchakalpa Varubhascha, Vipa Sindhu Viva Chapa Vipanam.